A hearty good morning and welcome to the members of the press, television, radio listeners. Good morning. Actually, I'm a new person to the entire scene here. So immediately after my appointment, I decided to meet with the department heads in order to have an overview of what is pending and what the situation is, so I'll be able to take corrective measures. So together with my cabinet, I had a meeting with the Secretary General and the department heads. In that meeting, they gave me an overview of the ministry and information regarding some of the challenges that we will have to work on together. It was a pleasure to receive such complete cooperation, for as I stated, the Secretary General and the department heads, they are the experts, and they are the ones who are in government, and they are responsible for the day-to-day work. It is my intention to always take their advice and the council into the consideration when formulating my vision and goals for this ministry. I will be the facilitator and take all possible actions to ensure that the ministry functions successfully. Some of the challenges include securing staff for the various departments, which is a challenge due to the severe budgetary constraints as stated by the Minister of Finance. But filling those vacancies is critical, especially in the case such as within the Civil Aviation Department, where we are unable to fill these vacancies. And once these vacancies are not filled, we cannot improve our present Cat 2 category to Cat 1, and we will be reliant on Curaçao. So that is a situation that I will not want to be in, and I will sit with the Minister of Finance and ask if he can assist me in getting the necessary persons for the Civil Aviation Department as well as the Tourist Department in order for us to do our marketing and market our island, so that we will not be faced with another season where we don't have, the hotels don't have sufficient tourists to fill their rooms, and then we will face with another slow tourist season. Another major challenge is the urgent need to get St. Martin Tourist Authority up and running. The STA has been in the pipeline for many years, but I'm happy to say that progress has been made. But recognizing the absolute importance of tourism to our island's economy, the STA must be given the attention that it needs and deserves, and as such, I will have my focus and attention. At this point in time, the STA has been set up as a foundation, jointly by the airport and the harbor for their expediency's sake. However, it needs to be changed to a government ZBO. This situation will also be addressed during my tenure, and I am seeking the advice and assistance of experts who can assist me in getting this organization set up in a very short period. I also met with the Managing Director and management of the Harbor Group of Companies, and I was given a presentation on the Harbor Group. That was a preliminary meeting. It was an introductory meeting. And a second meeting and more in-depth meeting is planned for next week, at which time we will discuss the financial statements and the financial statement of the companies. With regard to the airport, I hadn't had the opportunity to meet with the supervisory boards of the airport holding and operational companies at the airport as yet, although I have been obtaining information as to exactly what the situation is in regard to the screening process of the managing director. As I do not as yet have a complete understanding of the legal technicalities and haven't as yet had the meeting with the various parties, it would be preliminary, very premature for me to discuss the situation at the airport at this instance.
I would like to update on study financing, one of the topics for this morning. The application period started to receive study financing on October 15th and will run through January 15th, 2016. Study financing website, www.studyfinancing.sx, has been upgraded and it will be officially launched next week. In an effort to increase the efficiency in the application process, the new website also offers the possibility for the applications to be filled in online. The information is then automatically stored in the application database. Persons are still, however, required to print out the form and submit it with the required documents. Also pertaining to study financing, the Ministry of Education, Culture, Youth and Sports signed an educational partnership agreement with Pittsburgh Technical Institute to promote technical vocational education primarily for students in the PSVE and PKL streams. Students from St. Martin will be receiving scholarships via the PTI, which is Pittsburgh Technical Institute, for certificate programs, $5,000, and for the associate's programs, $10,000. The PTI, Pittsburgh Technical Institute, specializing in welding, ICT training, culinary arts, and HVAC, which specializes in airco and refrigeration. These are areas which we have on our priority list, and government is therefore setting aside 5 to 10 scholarships to be able to send the first group of students next year to the PTI. So the applications or students interested from those streams are also encouraged to apply. As it pertains to studying in a region, the funding has been secured just recently, and applications that have been sent in have been processed as well. So those who have applied for the studying in a region funding will be able to hear about the outcome of said applications within the coming weeks. As I mentioned last week, on Sunday upcoming, we will be hosting the annual Thanksgiving service in front of the Government Administration Building. This is an ecumenical service which will begin at 4:30 p.m. Praise and worship will be led by the New Testament Baptist Church. Yearly, this endeavor is undertaken by the St. Martin Christian Council, St. Martin United Ministerial Foundation, the Seventh-day Adventist Church, and is supported by the Ministry of Education, Culture, Youth, and Sports Affairs. I hereby appeal to the general public, especially at this time. This service is set aside specifically to give thanks for the passing of an uneventful hurricane season, and seeing that the types of weather that was endured in other parts of the Caribbean, we have much to be thankful for, and I therefore encourage the general public to come out to this service on Sunday upcoming. Not only have we been spared from hurricanes year after year in the past few years, I would also appeal to the public to come out so that we can also pray for light and peace for our community, seeing the recent increase in violence that we have been experiencing on our small 37 square miles. On a brighter note, I would like to congratulate Mr. Ichmar Cozier, a young St. Martiner. We constantly highlight, as I've said before, the negatives in our society, but I would like to take this time, though I'm unable to meet him at the airport this morning as he's arriving at 11 from French Guiana, where he went to represent St. Martin in kickboxing. He came out successful, and so I am proud to say that though I'm not able to attend, a member of the sports department will be greeting him along with the press so that he can get the necessarily positive push and promote sports and education on St. Martin, and that we can go out there in the world and represent well. So congratulations once again to Mr. Ichmar Cozier. He is a good all-rounder, actually plays basketball and baseball as well. So he's now focused on kickboxing, and he has been successful in representing St. Martin at French Guiana. So congratulations, and I hope to see him on the front page. Thank you very much. Oh, also I forgot to mention, on the Phillipsburg Technical Institute, we are expecting a delegation from that institute, which will be here from the 9th of December through to the 12th, and will be making visits to some of our PKL and PSVE schools, as well as hopefully the NEPA institution, with which we hope to get cooperation to assist them in building their programs as well.
One of the issues, before I go to the decree, I want to share with you is a decision that was taken last week not to extend the present garbage contracts. One of the decisions that the former government had taken after the vote of no confidence was to rush into a decision to use, and I can probably say misuse, Article 47 of the Comptabiliteitslandsverordening, the law that allows you to deviate from public tenders, to use that law and ask the governor to sign a decree to extend the garbage contracts for another 5 years. Now, the garbage contracts will expire, I think, will run out in April, I think, somewhere in 2016. So there is no urgency to extend them. And if, for instance, if there was not enough time to put them on public bid, you would say, well, okay, we'll extend them for 6 months to give government the opportunity to put it on public bid. However, they have chosen to give the 4 present contractors an extension, not for 6 months, not for a year, but for 5 years. Last week, the decision was taken to write all 4 garbage contractors, the present contractors, write them to notify them that the extension has not been granted, has not been approved, and that it will go unbid. The Public Works Department has also prepared a tender document for the expansion of the districts. Right now, the garbage collection is divided in 4 parcels, as it would be referred to, parcel 1, 2, 3, and 4. And incorporated in that also was the cleaning of the roadsides. That is what had created the difficulty, the challenge for government. As you can recall, when I was Minister of Romi in 2012-13, I awarded contracts for the cleaning of trenches. That was the only possibility that we had to award some sort of cleaning to smaller contractors, because the garbage contracts as they were then had built in the trenches, the roadside cleaning. But roadside cleaning is not done regularly, only on main roads. It is done every month, but on what they call the secondary roads, it is done once in 3 months. So what we are doing is expanding on the garbage contracts, the districts rather. So instead of 4, it will be 8 parcels, and the roadside cleaning and trench cleaning will also be broken down in a certain amount of districts. And the intention is to, what they call like share the joy, spread the wealth, rather than having 4 contractors responsible for all of the work. And one of the cries of the young men in the different districts is, we want to work, we want to help keep our island clean, and we cannot say that whenever an opportunity was given, the boys in the different districts came out, unlike what people would think and have said of them, and we would see them working morning, noon, and night in the hot sun, cutting grass, removing debris, cleaning trenches. So government's aim is to give them the opportunity, not on a occasional basis, or if there's an election coming around the corner, or if it's Christmas, but that they too can build a sort of a future for themselves and their family, knowing that they have a contract that is not once every 3 months or once every 6 months I get something to do, but that they have a structural income. But at the same time also, it will ensure that our roadsides and our districts and our main roads would be clean at all times. There are 4 minutes left. and I was asked last week to keep it short, so I'm keeping it very short this week. Of course, the question, did we hand in a new decree? We did not meet a self-imposed deadline. It is not that somebody told us that it has to be in. I have taken upon myself to say, well, our deadline should be, we are aiming for the weekend, for Friday, no later than Monday. However, I wanted to discuss the issue as well with the coalition partners. I didn't want to make it a decision taken by the government only, and then the coalition partners would have to read in the news what direction it is that we were heading in. So we took that time, and it was yesterday that the new decree was sent to the governor. I have had no discussions with the governor as yet as to, which direction he would want to go, whether he would sign it or not sign it. We hope, of course, that the governor would sign it. Now, when I walked in, I understood there was a question to Minister Gibson as to whether this was a decree aimed at postponing elections. Of course, it is not. One has to look at the premise of the decree of October 28th and 29th, but what prompted it as well. What were the developments leading up to there? Following the elections of August, and I'm sure things that I've said before, but following the elections of August, there was a formation of the Red, White, and Blue coalition. On the same day that I was to hand in the final report to the governor, one member pulled its support. We lost a majority. We did not make any noise, at least for sure I did not. Shortly after, the Red, White, and Blue lost another person who jumped ship, as they would call it, declared themselves independent. We had first MP Cornelius de Weaver. Shortly thereafter, we had MP Leona Marlin, who left her party to strengthen the coalition. It seems all well then. It was okay. A new government was put in place, supported by persons who crossed party lines to support a new government. If that was something so bad, then I'm sure the government would have included in their governing program, or as a priority, they would have said, we will ensure that ship jumping will be something that will be eradicated, will be minimized, will be mitigated, will be stopped. We will pursue electoral reform to this effect. No, that did not happen. All of us know that the government said priority for the government was balancing the budget and coming with an integrity chamber legislation. That was their priority. At no point in time did the government indicate ship jumping is something detrimental to our democracy that we need to address. Here it is, a year later, other persons who hold a seat in Parliament decide to cross party lines, to resign from their party and withdraw their support. The governor, in his first reaction to this, put in writing to Minister Gomes at the time that the government has lost its majority. There is a motion of no confidence against the government. There is a new majority with a governing accord, so he sees no reason why the formation of a new government cannot begin, and reminded them that they should, in accordance with Article 33, make their positions available. That is when all hell broke loose, and former Minister Gomes and his cabinet decided they ain't going home, they're not resigning. Instead, they invoked Article 59, which gave them the right to dissolve Parliament, and we had that whole standoff that lasted some 7 weeks or 6 weeks that resulted finally in the signing of the decree. They signed a decree on the 28th that would take effect on the 15th of December. Then they signed a decree again, canceled that one, withdraw that decree, signed a new one that said it would go into effect on the 15th of December with elections in February. It is not yet in effect. That's one. Two, the premise of it is we need to stop ship jumping. And how are we going to stop it, according to the decree, would be by holding elections. Now, anybody who says that we will hold elections, whether it's this week, next week, or February, and that will stop ship jumping, is living on a different planet. What we have addressed in our decree is the fact that, one, it won't stop ship jumping. Two, that it is clear that St. Martin needs, based on what we have realized, based on what we have learned and seen between September 30th to when the decree was signed, that we have some serious issues. And if we do not address those issues and properly regulate them, even if we have an election in February, there is no guarantee even that before the swearing in, we would not have, let's say, ship jumpers. But worse than that, we have a government. And what happens if that government is in office and after 6 months or a year, there is a problem between Parliament and the government? There is no ship jumping. But there's an issue on the floor of Parliament in which the government says, for instance, we want to pursue X, Y, Z. And Parliament says to the government, absolutely not, we are not in agreement with that. We ain't going there with you. What does the government then do? Because Parliament promised to take a vote of no confidence against a minister or against the cabinet, then they dissolve Parliament. So you have a situation where if we do not address the use/misuse of Article 59, we won't have ship jumping, but Parliament becomes a rubber stamp, because any time that Parliament calls government to order, or any time government tells a minister or the Council of Ministers, I am not in agreement with the direction you are going, whether it's with the budget, whether it's with the airport, whether it's with the harbor, whether it's a policy, whether it's about cockfighting, whether it's about brothels or casinos or whatever it is. If Parliament says to government, I do not agree, then government fires Parliament. A Parliament is who the people elect, and the Parliament has the responsibility to supervise, control government, call government to account, and not the other way around, where if Parliament calls government to account, then government uses Article 59 to so-called strike back. Now, we would have a system where members of Parliament either got to shut up and put up, or face the wrath of government through the use of Article 59 every time there's a disagreement, let's say. Secondly, so in Europe, in Holland, better yet, the signals that come from there is based on their tradition. The law, that article was used or was given to give the government the right to strike back. In the constitutional development of our parliamentary democracy in the Netherlands Antilles, in the Dutch Caribbean, the focus is on Parliament, and that article is there that in the event there is a standoff in Parliament and they can't find a majority to support a government, then they would dissolve Parliament and have new elections. Now, we can go ahead and argue for weeks at end as to whether because even in Holland, there is a difference of opinion, because Professor Hirsch Berlin supports the Antillean perspective, if you want to call it. Rogier supports the Antillean perspective. Now deceased Carlos Dipp, who was one of the most notable constitutional experts in the kingdom, is of that opinion. If we would talk to former minister and veteran politician Captain Leo Chance, he too is of that school of thought. So we need to regulate these things to avoid that even if you hold an election today, that the same thing can happen again, because people are going to say, I consulted with this one and this is the advice he gave me. And therefore we are saying we need not rush into an election, because what? The government that used Article 59 had a motion of no confidence against them, should have left office immediately, because there was a motion of no confidence against them. There is a majority in Parliament supporting a government, and there is a government in place. In addition to some of these arguments, some of the arguments we brought forward as well is the financial situation in St. Martin is serious. There is not yet an approved budget 2015. There is no balanced budget. There is not yet a balanced budget for 2016. When we put all of this into the reality of the responsibilities of government, we can go again and disrupt governance, hold elections, with the risk of 6 months to a year after you have a new government, because we did not change anything that regulates our electoral system or that mitigates or stops ship jumping. So we hope that in the course of today, we will get some feedback or response from the governor, but up till now, there has been none.